Welcome, everybody. I know it's a little bit of a bumpy day, but let's just walk in and talk about a whole bunch of stuff. So today we're going to talk about, let me pop this up, and we're going to talk about what we call the Max Pain theory. And this is well established in other areas. There's a few little things that have cropped up over the last week or so. We picked up on a lot of FUD, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt, a lot of nervousness in the markets. And we're going to talk about some of what we see, recap some of the items that we've spoken about already, and just take it from there. So let's jump in. And math, money, freedom. Disclaimer, this is edutainment, not financial advice. So first of all, we spoke about the Mt. Gox potential news. Nobody is actually sure what's going to happen, if coins are going to be dumped on the 20th of November or not, or later, or trickle down, or a big dump. Either way, it's rattling a lot of people. I was happy to see people like Max Kaiser jump in and talk about it today, and Ran from Crypto Banter talked about Mt. Gox too as a potential thing. It's like 4 or 5 days later, which is great. So there is something there. It does have people rattled, but there's other stuff that people are nervous about as well. And this is this piece here. This is from Forbes magazine. And Bitcoin falls as Congress tries to tackle cryptocurrencies. Lawmakers aren't getting far. So a lot of people in the US are concerned about what lawmakers are trying to do. They try to pass a bill this summer that looked at digital asset market structure and investor protection. Now they put together a whole bunch, like a 60-page of oversight that would really hammer and crush people that manage, touch, build wallets, exchanges, etc. So they're trying to reword that. So there's a lot of uncertainty there around that whole space, which is causing the markets to be a little bit nervous too. Now, in addition, this is the reality. Just to set the tone, Bitcoin just fell to a one-month low after a 6% dive. We'll talk more about that 1 month low, but a lot of people freak out. You know, we've come so far since last year. We've come so far this year, and we have further to go. But undoubtedly, there is nervousness. There's going to be some seller exhaustion. We're real close to seller exhaustion. That's what I call max pain. And also, we'll look at how the options and derivatives markets are impacting what's happening as well. Also, watch for things like high sell-side volume and bars in the short term. And these tend to signal bottoming out after constant selling and precede either a strong bounce or an entire trend reversal. So these are things that we're looking for very carefully. And if you stay tuned, we'll talk about max pain. But this is not max pain. I thought this was a funny little image here, is watching the dip without money to buy the dip. Always have dry powder on hand. You know, I've been harvesting for quite a few weeks now, and that's what I do. I harvest and then wait for dips and blow it. Harvest, wait for dips and blow it. Harvest, wait for dips and blow it. It's very simple. I want you guys to start picking up on those patterns because they're important to follow. So what is max pain? Let's dig into this chart here. This is actually from Sheldon, and this is a chart he put together, which I thought was really cool. Saved me building it, because I normally have to build it myself, but I decided, take it from Sheldon and share it. This is basically what I call max pain. He calls it Bitcoin futures contract expirations. Typically, before every big expiration date or expiry, the idea is to get the leverage out. Now, when you talk about things like leverage, on this chart here, you can see all the different max pain points, which basically signals exactly the amount of financial distress that people have to go through to get the leverage out. These are where the traders have the equilibrium positions. So right now, Bitcoin is at about 55K of max pain. Last month, it was at 54K. And typically, from the top to the max pain level, the fall is about 20%. And we're getting close to that. Now, we did this 3 times in Q1. We did it 3 times in Q2. We did it 3 times in Q3. And now we're doing the second time in Q4. Can anybody see a pattern here? This happens every single month, like clockwork. So it's just part of the shakeout, right? So looking at this chart again, We have a little ways to go, but my calculation is about 3% full to go to get to that 55K area, which also corresponds with the Fibonacci level. I'll show you the chart in a second. And remember, everybody, we're still in an uptrend, okay? Don't panic. Stay cool. For those of you who don't have cash, sit back, relax. Don't be forced to sell, okay? Now let's look at a couple of other things. This is a picture of margined longs and margined shorts year to date. The green are the longs. They're the people that buy crypto at leverage, 3x, 5x, 20x, 100x, whatever. And the red are the shorts. The important thing to note here, very few people are short the Bitcoin market, okay? This is a bullish sign. You can see the green, the margined longs have been cut in half, okay? So it's the same thing that happens time and time again. The shorts are not shorting. They're gone. They've covered their positions. And the margined longs, half of them have been eliminated. So basically, those who did the short play in July of this year played a wonderful trade. And we were watching this carefully as we go forward. But I always talk about the smart money. This is where they place their positions and place their bets. So that is where we stand right now. Let's look a little bit at the amount of Bitcoin still being drained from exchanges. It keeps on going down. The illiquid supply highlights the strong hands resolves. We're down to 2.28. It sounds like a Fibonacci level. No, it's the millions of Bitcoin on exchanges as we speak. And mid-August, we had about 2.6 million on exchanges. So 300,000 Bitcoin have then since left. That's the other bullish sign to look at. I'm not selling hopium here. I'm just looking at numbers and facts. Now, this is the stablecoin supply coin ratio. This is the amount of stablecoins. It's the bottom blue line, not the black line. That's the price of Bitcoin. But you can see here there's always a correlation. When the supply coin ratio is very high, it is a sign that people can indicate potential buying pressure for major currencies like Bitcoin. Not all. It doesn't necessarily mean that the stablecoins we use to buy Bitcoin. But on the other hand, a low supply in stablecoins indicate there may be a slowdown in buying pressure, which may result in potential bearish moments. Now, this one has plenty of powder, so the buying pressure is on hand when the market calls for it. Real simple. We'll see. Now, let's talk about another thing. This is called Bitcoin days above. These are days above a certain price level. So we have spent 40 days in the history of 12 years of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is about 4,400 days old, approximately 12 years, give or take, depending on exactly when you determine when it was born. And we've spent only 40 of those 4,400 days. All the fours here. I hope nobody is Chinese in the audience because 4 can signify death. But in this case, it's just a number. So 40 days above 60 grand. Not a lot. 120 days above 50,000. More. 214 above 40,000. That's actually very small considering, we're so used to being now at, once we hit the all-time high of 67, people thought 65 was the new floor. Well, it wasn't. We spent 319 days only above $30,000 and 47 days in total above where we are now, 57,500. So everybody, please don't panic. That's normal. We climbed a big hill. We got to the top of the mountain, taking a breather. Let me go to the next level. So in other news as well, let's talk about the max pain, where the floor is. Now, according to me, we're at that 1 month low, and undoubtedly we have some issues. But if you look at this actual map here looks a little bit like a Wyckoff type shape, the way it's happened, but this is just flushing out those margin longs as I mentioned before. Now, from where we are right now as we speak, we have about 3,000 to go to that 55,000 level. And we'll see if things turn around then. It could happen, but that also is the next level at which I am going to buy Bitcoin. So fingers crossed, I will have my limit orders ready to jump in if we get down there. We are very close again, 2.7, 3%, 3.2%, depending on where the market is right now. In fact, let me pop up. I don't even have my charting open, which is surprising. It's the first thing I do. So Bitcoin's at 56.9, so I've got $1,900 to go. And if we look at the chart itself, yeah, it's kind of bottoming out. We don't know if we're going to get to 55K, so don't have your fingers crossed for that. but it's still cheap. So that's the chart. Now, another piece of news as well. I saw this from Swan Bitcoin, Corey Swan. So people, obviously, as we know, they don't spend their Bitcoin. They'll only spend it if they've got nothing else to spend. And that's why the whole medium of exchange story is kind of a little bit in the distance. But if you look at the narrative today for Bitcoin, it's called store of value. The first arrow on the bottom left is today. That's where we are in terms of the adoption curve of Bitcoin being a store of value. If you saw my video yesterday with CTO Larson, you saw his chart of having the little tiny yellow box compared to the 8 billion cell phones and that are on the network out there. So if you look at where we are today, we're very early in the adoption curve of store of value. But the beauty of this chart is you can see the second S-curve coming into play. That's medium of exchange. And according to Swan, he believes we will not be able to buy most, by 2035, we'll be able to buy most, which is 80-90% of all goods and services in the world, any place, with a currency denominated in Satoshis, which is Bitcoin. So the piece of news here to take away is we have a long way to go. We're very early in the first cycle, but there's a second cycle. So first cycle store value, we're in right now, just the beginning. And after that, it'll be medium exchange second cycle. So extremely bullish. Talk about being early. Now, another little bit of news confirming this. The Voyager CEO still says we are super early in the stages of crypto adoption. So there we are. And this is a guy who's been around the financial markets for 30 years plus, former CEO of E-Trade, and now he's running Voyager. So more good news. Now, switching gears, let's talk about Ethereum for a second. The Ethereum flipping Bitcoin narrative is back. This might be because of all the good stuff that Raoul Pal is saying. But what exactly does that take? How far are we away from that actually happening? And could it happen? So what would it take? Here, you look at the relative market caps today. Bitcoin, 1.1 trillion. It was 1.2 not too long ago. Ethereum, 480 billion. So basically, Bitcoin would have to stay flat and Ethereum would have to hit $9,200 for this flipping to happen. And that is a ways off. I don't think Bitcoin will stay flat. They'll both kind of go up together, albeit Ethereum could run a little bit faster. So don't hold your breath for that flipping. It will be possible in the future, but I don't think it'll happen for a long time. Now, speaking of Raoul Pal, he came out with an article today. He's been in the news a lot and talking a lot about Ethereum. He believes, obviously, Ethereum could rise as much as 300% by the end of the year. Now, I don't expect that to happen, and he doesn't expect his estimate to be perfect. So he said between 100 and 300% rally is highly probable by year end. So if we look at where we are today, call Ethereum 4,000, 100% will take us to 8,000, 300% will take us to anywhere from 12 to 15,000 in the next 6 weeks. Is that possible? He said highly probable. He knows his stuff. So let's see. So this is where he gets his information from. He looks at what he calls the spooky chart for a while now. And he's been talking about this for more than 3 months, as far as I remember. And it is tracking in an uncanny way to the way Bitcoin tracked in 2017. And that's how he believes we could get a huge spike up. But it's more easy to see if you look at this Bloomberg chart here of, I think, where he got his original thesis. The white line is Ethereum. The blue line is Bitcoin performance in 2017. And the way in which it's tracking and following is really, 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 really close. You could not really make this up. And I know we've been talking about the similar patterns in 2013 and 2021 and 2017 and 2021, but this one is uncanny. And that's why he believes it is potentially possible, because it's been tracking so closely. What's to stop it from tracking and going all the way up there? Now, the big story behind this, if it does track Bitcoin perfectly like it did in 2017, that would put Ethereum at $15,000 by Christmas. So his theory, he has a huge amount of conviction. Now let's talk a little bit about Ethereum as well. Is it in the buy zone? Well, $4,000, yes. Not financial advice, but it's looking very juicy. And this is the Santiment 30-day MVRV analytic chart that shows it is definitely in the low risk buy area, and it just fell in here and it's been hanging out here for a few days. In fact, it's gone a little bit lower since this chart was made, and Ethereum is roughly about 18% from its all-time high, about 48.78, which I think is the all-time high. I remember because it has 8s in it. And so we'll see what happens if Ethereum can bounce up from this level, but it's definitely in the accumulation zone. I personally haven't bought Ethereum since it was 2,400, but if anybody wants a piece, and if Raoul Pal, like he said, between 100 and 300%, that would take Ethereum right up to 8,200, 9,000, real easy. So we'll see. The question is, who do you believe? Now, speaking of other chains, layer ones, this is the AllBridge Multichain. It's a new piece of technology that's going to connect Solana via AllBridge to 6 other chains. Those 6 chains are Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, Celo, GEcko, Avalanche, and Ethereum. And it brings a ton of assets along with it too. So super interesting to watch. We are going into a multi-chain world. There will be a kernel chain that'll handle all the powerlifting, but the more you hook into other chains, the more you can grasp, and people will gravitate towards the lowest transaction cost, the highest speed. That's it. It's already happening. We see that happening with the data right now. Now let's look at the Solana chart. Here, a couple of things to point out here is the retracement, the Fibonacci retracement levels. As you know, we had a couple here where I have been buying. I bought a little bit of 221, which is the 0.38 level. I bought a little bit of the 0.5, which was basically the 200 level. And the max pain level, according to this, would be the 0.618. And I estimate that to be about $177. Again, we don't know if we're going to get down there, but typically what I do is I get into one position at one level, I 3x it for the next level, and I 5x it for the next level after that. So that way I DCA on steroids is what I call it. Anyway, that is the Solana news. Now let's look at this here. This is from Paul Barron. I find this very interesting. It looks at the top 20 altcoins by sentiment. Now, this is what I call the new CPI. This is called the Crypto Power Index, powered by GEcko. And this was kind of interesting. Big thank you as well to Sanjay for sending this to me. And it highlights the number 1 token based on sentiment today is Solana. Number 2 is XRP. Woohoo, XRP. I'll talk about that in a minute. Number 3 is Polkadot. 4, Avalanche, and then Axie Infinity, Sand, Phantom. Is interesting to see all the metaverse plays so high up here. Now, those ones with the green check are the ones that I actually hold. But the big message here is sentiment doesn't necessarily mean it is the right investment. And that's what I want you all to take away, because XRP is number 2. The question is, why? Let's dig into that. So a lot of people ask me about XRP all the time. They said, when is it going to 500? When is it going to 1,000? Well, I have some disappointing news for you all. It's never going there. It has a very colored background, but if you look at some of the heavy promotion, let's call it, by others actually, and the reason I'm showing this is I believe we are all adults in this space. We are all investing professionally. That's why you're watching this channel, for simple, objective information. So I don't want to offend anybody, but if, like some people say, XRP is going to $500, which they say all the time, this means that XRP would have a $25 trillion market cap. If XRP is going to $1,000, that means it would have a $50 trillion market cap. Again, that's just based on the numbers. Let's take this a little bit further. The real important way to look at it is what's called a fully diluted market cap at these targets. A $500 XRP means it would have a $50 trillion market cap, and an XRP to $1,000, which has been pumped by many, many people. They believe it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. That would be a $100 trillion market cap. To put things in perspective, that would be worth more than every single equity on the planet. Okay? Does that sound possible to you guys? Again, nobody does the math. Stupid stuff. Be careful of these unrealistic expectations. Like somebody's going to 10x, somebody's going to 20x, 100x, 1000x. It's just not mathematically possible. So everybody, be realistic. Do your math and be careful who you listen to. Now, speaking of a really interesting piece of news that took me aback, and I hate to go off the crypto chain for a second, but this very last slide. This is an article here from Gene Munster on Apple, saying their Apple is very close to Tesla on AI necessary for autonomous driving. That would be crazy. So, as you know, in full disclosure, I sold my Apple at 150 early summer of this year because I thought it had very little upside, but now I need to reassess that. So if they really do have the AI, the autonomous car technology to be able to compete or even beat Tesla, which this guy Gene Munster has it on very good authority. He said the reports that Apple have really started investing in this area is true. And the person that reported this is very, very credible. This isn't a vague rumor. And it's been circulating for a long time that Apple are secretly working on that. And I believe, based on this, they could be. So wouldn't it be incredible if Apple build the technology to drive an autonomous vehicle? I think it's a big stretch personally myself, because I know exactly how much it goes behind the scenes at Tesla for this. But if they did crack the code and then they license the technology to auto manufacturers like the Volkswagens and the Fords and the Toyotas of the world, that would be a game changer for both Apple and these other car companies. Apple will never be able to manufacture a vehicle. They are decades behind Tesla, and it's not their wheelhouse, but the technology could be. So we're going to watch this carefully. It could be very interesting. So with that, I hope you guys like the content, and let's open up to some Q&A. I haven't done Q&A in a while here. We switch cameras, and I hope everybody's doing fantastic. So, and then let's check on the market too as well. 57K, 2K more to max pain. And max pain, remember, is that level of ultimate pain for the options traders. So we'll see if that actually happens. Let me jump in. And a big thank you to the moderators out there, keeping this community safe from scammers, safe from negative sentiment, etc. Again, channel's about no frill, no shill, just plain raw truth the way we see it. So Craig M., have you lost all hope and interest in Solend? Sounds like it on live Q&A. Not lost all interest, but it's, it was a flutter. I threw $3,000 at an IDO. Sometimes I do things to experiment how things could work. I guess kind of try before you buy. It went from $6 to nearly $15, $16, and it came all the way back down now to, let me see where it is at right now. I looked at it today, it was about 680. So let me find out. 650. So the point is, I looked at a little spike above $7 a minute ago. That's funny. I think it has a really good chance. I've used the technology. It's really impressive. It just needs adoption. How it's going to get adopted, I don't know. The TVL growth has been astounding, but it's flattened. It flattened off a couple of days ago. And I'll watch that very carefully. But I do think it's a formidable Aave competitor. And that was always my thesis. So we'll see. But no, I still hold. I believe it will do well for this bull run. So hang in tight. Anyway, the point is sometimes you don't necessarily need to buy an IDO or an ICO or an IPO. Wait for things to stabilize. So Michael Shane, I've been following Solent down and just wondering your thoughts. So I just covered that. And notice interest rates changing and the borrowing not easy. Yeah, it's, again, very risky. I've said 1,000 times, very risky. There's no guarantees in the space. I have never bought anything outside the top 300 in my life. This was number 2,700 when it came out. So we'll see. Again, the IDO price, it's just right at that IDO price right now, which means it's fairly valued. So we'll wait and see. I think right now, like max pain, Solend is probably at the max pain level. You got to watch the TVL very carefully. If it starts going above $1 billion and starts getting more widely adopted, and they weave through some of those lending problems, I think it'll be very, very good. Nav, love to know what your Solana cost basis is. Well, I've been layering in hard. My vision was always to try and make my Solana position equivalent to my Ethereum position, but that's really hard to do because I got into Ethereum early 2020. Cost basis on average right now, it's probably $78, $80. I bought initially at 20, 32, 36, but most of the buying was in the 20s, but I've even buying in the 200s. So I've been buying all the way up because I still believe it is probably the most compelling value of all cryptos today because of the metrics and the adoption. So not chilling anything, but that's why I keep buying it. Mr. B70, you're up late. Please explain debasement in more detail. How is that different to inflation? I fully don't understand what it means. Debasement and inflation, kind of the same. The term debasement comes from the old Roman times when Rome was beginning to fall, and they used to use silver coins to pay their soldiers so they could wage war and get more silver, etc. But the debasement term comes from the fact that they used to start diluting the silver and mixing it with other metals. So your coin used to be 100% silver, and then it became 80% silver, 60% silver, 40% silver. If you lose the analogy of inflation, same thing, you lose purchasing power. And that's what it means. So, and that's where the history of debasement comes from. I hope that helps. Wesley McDonald, Alex and Celsius claim they give back 80% of revenue to customers. Do you know if there is proof of this? I've been trying to research. Yes, go to their website. They disclose and share everything. They are absolutely transparent. And when he says he does something, he means it. He's made his money. His job now is to disrupt entire industries. He doesn't care. And you can even see how much he has within the Celsius system. His money is parked alongside yours. The interest rate he gets is the same as the interest rate you get. So that's Alex. I'll try dig up if I can where you can see that give back, but they do have everything. Just go to the website. Everything is extremely open, extremely user-friendly. I just can't remember which section that has it. Hien Win, still bullish, but it worries me when everyone is saying Bitcoin 100, 135 by Christmas. How can it be that predictable? Coming from equities, consensus, crowd strategies are very worrisome to me. Your thoughts? Me too. I said that actually in a video about 2 weeks ago. I said, or it may have been in an interview, I don't remember. I said, it is crazy for people to have such confidence that things are going to go to such a level. It's like, where does that come from? I've never seen it before. There's no way you say, in 1995, oh, the price of copper is going to go to this by Christmas, or a stock is going to go up to this price, with the exception of some super bears and things like Tesla. Yeah, it has happened. But what makes this whole space so interesting is you can see everything on chain. And if you understand economics and supply and demand and you forecast that forward, yes, it's completely possible. That's why I spend a lot of time sharing a lot of the on-chain analytics, a lot of the things like the supply and exchanges, a lot of things like the money flows and investments and where developers are going. You put all these things together and you build an extremely strong picture of how easy it is for this to happen. Like literally, it doesn't take a lot of money. It takes 20 to 25x the money that comes in to an equity to ramp it up a large amount. What I mean by that is if you have something like, for example, easy way to think about it is Bitcoin has $1 trillion market cap. If somebody took $1 trillion, which is, 1% of the bond market, and stuck it into Bitcoin, the market cap of Bitcoin would go straight to $26 trillion. And that's just how it works. So it doesn't take a lot to move this thing. And when you look at the size of this market compared to the size of other markets, by the way, I've got a very good interview tomorrow with a guy called Greg Foss. So he is a 30-year veteran of the bond trading market. He knows macro way better than I do. And it's just going to be so fun to talk to him. So stay tuned for that. You'll get a lot of the answers you're looking for as well. But yeah, it is weird that people say things with such conviction. It's crazy, but it's a crazy world we live in too. And that's why I can't sleep at night, because it's so exciting to be here. Steve Pat, do you think it's worth holding on to Tezos, Algo, and Cosmos for the API, or the funds worth investing elsewhere? I wouldn't touch Tezos and Cosmos. Terrible, terrible tokenomics. Algorand, I still hold. I've never bought the other two. And Algorand, I like because they're getting a lot of institutional money and they're getting a lot of developer attention. The problem with Algorand is they're gearing their platform up to be a cornerstone of central bank digital currencies. That's why I think a lot of the action is happening. Not confirmed. It's my hunch. Now, if they start focusing on CBDCs for countries, they'll line the pockets of the insiders, but it won't do much for you as token holders because it'll be a forked chain that they use for each country's central bank digital currency. So there'll be no benefit to actual algo holders. But I'm still holding. It's not one I've shaken yet, but it's on the list. So, and it's doing really well as well. Algorand has defied the market, defied gravity lately. So hold on tight there. Learn to surf waves. I'm in Oz and use the only platform to trade US options, Tastyworks. How do I make sure they don't go under? This has happened before with Stonebridge Securities. That's the danger. That's the reason I only trade options on one platform. And I've been doing it for over 25 years on the same platform. Tastyworks is supposed to be good. I've never used it myself. Check the legal situation. I'm sure they're fine. And I'd be less worried about like an options trading platform going under. I'm sure they have excellent risk management in place. But check what they do on their website around risk management and search for that and see. And that should give you all the answers you need. But you are dead right to always be paranoid. I always say, be careful of where you put your crypto and which exchanges. And I only choose the very best. If there's any sign of anything suspicious, I go. And that's what I did with Binance. I was a Binance customer, and I started seeing all the regulatory crap happening and all of the smoke in, I think it was May of this year. I did a video on it and set them up. And I sold my BNB too. So yeah, do your homework on that and check. But options trading platform should be kind of safe. I mean, if it's an options trading platform, they got to know risk management better than anybody else. Paul Z, does selling Tesla puts at 980 make sense? Yes, if you can get $200 of premium for it, heck yeah. That's like buying a Tesla at $800, which, you know, my kill zone for Tesla is 750 to 850 or 850 to 900 would be a great place to buy Tesla. So if you have a long-term time frame, yeah, put selling is a great way to buy stock cheap. I did a lot of put selling last year on Shopify, and I never got it because it kept on going up. I had leaps too, but I sold a ton of puts, and I just couldn't catch it. So beware of that too. If Tesla does remain above 1,000, you'll never get the Tesla stock, but you'll pocket the premium, which is good too. Aerowagon 25. How is the search for metaverse plays that have not run yet going? Okay. Every time I go and look at them, though, I fail at the tokenomics. It's just all of these metaverse plays, they're all massively inflationary. And they have to be because they give back. So when something is very inflationary, though, from the tokenomics side of the house, you can't get much upside. So that you know, because of my conservative nature, it scares me away. I got real close to finding one, and the price is right now because it tanked. But I just can't get it out there and say it. And I haven't bought it myself. If I come to the stage where I buy something, you guys will be the first to know. Did CTO Larson, this from Seta, convince you of XHV? No, he didn't. Not at all. In fact, I think I convinced him why I would never touch privacy tokens or stuff like that. Because, again, to reiterate, they can never attract institutional money because they're considered used for nefarious activities. Therefore, nope. And so we'll see. I've got to slow down reading the questions. So that would be, if anybody missed that, that was regarding Haven, Haven, which is XHV token. Big Duck Kiwi. Any good deals you like for the dip besides Bitcoin and Solana? Yeah, a lot of equities. So the equity market has gone in two directions. Some stuff has been slaughtered, like PayPal. It's totally in the kill zone in some of the biotech names. I haven't bought anything yet because I still think it's very high. And some things are off the charts. And then in terms of the crypto market, the only thing I bought in the last few days is Bitcoin and Solana. That's it. I bought Solana, I think, this morning. Yeah, at 191, I think. And it might even be below that right now. Let me see. It's 196 now. So bought that dip. And it is actually looking at the comparable of Solana against Bitcoin. It's holding up pretty well. But remember, it's a scary time. And we'll see. Let's check in actually right now. Yeah, certain things, we're seeing an interesting change in the market. It's just become the new day after 4 p.m. Pacific. But certain things are holding up. Like Engine is on the move again. Ethereum, it's bouncing off 4,000. 4,000 was the kill zone we just spoke about as well. So I think there's a little bit more pain to go before we finish, because not everything has been wiped out. So expect more games and buckle in and have those limit orders ready. Let me see. From John Frank, I bought more Clean Spark today. Should I buy more tomorrow? Yeah, I saw Clean Spark, John, around $16, and I went from 10 when we first did the video to 22, I think, maybe even a little higher, and right back down. So that'll rebound nicely. Remember, the miners are correlated to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin takes a hit, they take a hit. So, and it also, there's a couple of names, like there was some investor lawsuit against Marathon, I think, which took Marathon down hard, 30-40% the other day. So that's why, again, I can't stress enough, when you're investing in equities or crypto, take a hard look at the management team. Make sure there's no funny games going on. Not insinuating anything, but just be careful. That's why I love the management team of HUD-8. I think they are very polished. And I like Clean Spark too. They come from a different world, but they're very trustworthy, I believe. BatKD, what indicators do you suggest to use on TradingView to track assets? Different indicators you look at for cryptos and equities. I don't know what that means. TradingView to track assets. When you look at for crypto, so pretty much the same thing. So I use different I think I got your question now. I use different time frames when I look at equities, because they move slower in most cases than crypto. Equities, I find they conform to the TA rules far better than crypto. Crypto is so fickle when it comes to money flow. So, for example, your Bitcoin chart will set up for something in, say, March 2021. And then somebody is spending $1.5 billion in Bitcoin behind the scenes. It's Elon Musk. And that throws your TA out the window. But that type of stuff doesn't happen with the equity markets. So again, you got to just temper things a lot. What I find very useful with crypto is Bollinger Bands. Not so much RSI and MACD, but Bollinger Bands really are very helpful. Probably my most important tool. Let me see. Marcus Mann, can you please do a should I buy and render video? I looked at render. Again, it didn't pass the tokenomics test per se, and there was a few other little red flags, and I'll have another look. I promise you that. And I know when Shamath is talking about render and Shamath is talking about helium, the whole world goes crazy. It's like, oh, Shamath is talking about these two and they're going to be amazing and they're going to clean the clock of AWS and everything else. It's like, when you dig into them and look at how they're structured, they're not good projects. Yes, they might be good for miners, or yes, they might be good for insiders, but they're not good for us as investors. I just don't see. I got a very strict threshold to be able to get into something, and it doesn't pass. But I'll take another look, Marcus, and let you know. And also when I, well, you know what happens when I say, no, I'm not going to buy it. It's never a good outcome. I'll have another look, have another dig, and see if I can figure it out, if it's worth it or not. Luther St. James the Fourth, thoughts on Matic? What size is a good position, destined to head up? So right now, I'm 97% in 3 names, actually more than 97% in 3 names. So like 2.8% in the rest of my crypto. My Matic is my 4th or 5th biggest position. So Polkadot, Matic, Algorand, I all have about the same kind of levels. But again, the problem I have, I do believe of all the smart contract platforms, Matic is the 3rd most valuable, and it's extremely undervalued because of the stuff they're doing, and they're making a fortune as people figure out how not to use Ethereum, but use Matic instead, for example, for buying and selling NFTs. But it's complicated. It's a complicated process. But people are beginning to adopt it more. All the growth trajectory for Matic is incredible. I like it. I think it's just super cheap. I think it's, it should be priced a lot higher. It should be at $3 now, not at $1.50. So I'm still holding. I'm waiting for that $3 level, and then I'm out. So that's my plan. Layer 2s, we'll see. Technically, they wouldn't really exist if Ethereum didn't have so many problems right now. So that's my take on that. Mad Max, George, we are all George, said Bitcoin is down because of moon cycle. That's why he's not on your show anymore. Oh my God. I mentioned cycles of stock markets in September being historically weak. And I surmised it could be because people trade around moon cycles. And then the whole world said, he's crazy. Invest answers this crazy astrologist guy. It's like, no, I was just looking at patterns. I look at patterns and it's like, why? Looking at the markets for 30 years. Why does September suck? I wonder, is it because of some type of planetary position? That's all. And as it turns out, there is, you'll always find, it's like with TA, you can always make a chart tell you what you want or a planet position tell you what you want. So we'll see. Right now, I think we're full moon, at least, where I saw last night. So see if that has anything to do with the markets. But I don't know. I don't think the moon cycle has anything to do with Bitcoin. I know what's to do with Bitcoin, and it's a whole bunch of FUD. It's a whole bunch of manipulation. It's a whole bunch of hedge funds placing huge put bets. But that's all being shaken out right now. So we're almost at that max pain level, and then it'll be onwards and upwards. Moon has nothing to do with it, Mad Max, in my opinion. But there are people that trade based on that. I think there was a lady at the conference, the Solana conference, who was some type of psychic astrology person. And just to say to the audience, I'm not an astrology person. I know nothing. So, anywho, Andy, 2022 Austin or Miami F1 crypto meetup. Oh, that'd be fun. Let me see. Are they doing a Formula One race in Miami? That'd be cool. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about a Miami event anywhere. I think everybody needs to go to Miami. But we'll see. We'll see what's happening with the endemic and if they find things to prevent it. So, Pun, do you like geckos? I think they're very cute. I got a bunch of them in the back as well. So, yeah, I love all animals. But these are just hilarious little guys. And yeah, super cute. And a big thank you for your donation. I got sidetracked there thinking about geckos and Formula One racing. You guys throw me these curveballs. Everything frizzles in the head. Jeeves, following the full moon and smart money. Jeeves, you're a funny guy. Bat Pangolin. I used to go to school with a guy called Max Payne. I know. I think there's a TV show or a movie or something called Max Payne too. Because I did a search to see if anybody's talking about Max Payne. Max Payne is a common, it's an equities term to find Max Payne for those people that have big option positions. I don't think it's quite hit the crypto market yet, but it's, a lot of the terms in the financial markets will come over to the crypto market eventually, if they're not already here. And a big thank you to Trish Hill and Jeff Hammer and Citizen Jewel Sport and DFRA706, Luna, GT350, CP, that's Chadwick, Playing with Pastels, you're always so kind, Aravind Sugamar, Marcus Mann, Cass Satoshi, ooh, any relative to the main man, Spartian, Orin Estrada, Silver Surfer, St. Jude Needs Us, Tunas on Toast, Angel Velasquez, Nabel Tumanov, Dogwan, Angie007, Big Balls Bull, Show Me the Money, Bad Kitty in DC, MT, Catherine Polk, Tony X, Blair Mosley, Antor78, future Cybertruck owner, like myself, TJ, Beatty McGee, Danny C, Michael Wu, and good night, everybody. Speaking of Cybertrucks, that's going to change the game for Tesla. So I'm waiting for Tesla to settle down. I'll cover my shorts and then go right back on the horse again. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night. We're right at 45 minutes and might be a little bit more turbulence. Then it's going to be great. And remember as well, the question that came up, I can't remember who said it. I think it was Mr. Wynn, about the predictability of markets. Yes, it's ridiculous. And remember, and you look at who you're up against, they are using that information to manipulate you. So no such thing as a foregone conclusion, but the overall trend is up. We are still in this bull cycle. Thanks, everybody. Good night. See you tomorrow.